taking the time to talk to us about the show. We're psyched. It's the finale week, so it's fun to talk about it.
It is a delightful show. When I first saw the teaser, I wasn't sure what to think about it. And I fell in love from the very first episode. What was the process to go from creating it with Jason Sudeikis and pitching it to Apple TV and bringing it to the screen?
You know what, Jason and two of his partners, Joe Kelly, who's a writer on the show, Brendan Hunt, who plays the quiet Coach Beard. Those guys did a couple promotional videos for the Premier League years ago, and they're much more sketchy, you know, and loud and kind of like the dumb American coach over there. I wanted to work with Jason because I'm a huge fan of SNL and all of his movies, and I met with him, and he told me, Cherry, he said he gets more recognized as Ted Lasso in London and Europe than any SNL character or any movie he did. And could we try to do that as a TV show? And I was like, I don't know, man, those were pretty sketchy. I thought they were really funny, but they're, you know, definitely a different tone. And he had it thought out in his head. He's like, no, I want it to be emotional and have great friendships and female friendships and be optimistic. And you kind of do that thing. So he sucked me into the challenge and we went for it. You know, we got Apple. You know, it was really hard to pitch a show when you already have videos to make people believe it's going to be different than those, but they actually got it and bought into it.
I am very interested in this because you've been in the TV entertainment industry for a long time. I think this is your first, what I call a true streaming series, correct?
Yeah, and but when you say long time, I look very young, right? I mean, not everybody can see very boyish.
Very young. If I didn't look you up, I think you were just out of college.
There we go. See, I need that, Cherry. I run on compliments like that. Thank you. Yeah, it is my first streaming thing, so it's kind of a fun experience, you know. Apple's a new service, and that kind of is very weird. It's my first streaming thing, and yet the one complaint we always get is Apple's one of those streaming sites that only releases an episode a week. So everybody's like, "What's up? It's like network TV. What's going on?" But they'll be able to binge watch eventually, Cherry.
I kind of like, I have to say, I do binge watch TV shows.
Me too.
But there's such a pleasure in watching something come out every week, so you're able to get a certain amount of anticipation. And I'm old enough to remember watching Spin City with my family. I remember watching V as a child and going to school and going, oh my gosh, the rat. And I kind of feel for kids that'll never have that experience of watching a TV show all at the same time and then being able to share it all at the same time. But
you're right. There's something great about it. When there, I used to love, I mean, I was such a TV nerd as a kid. I used to love it, Cherry, you know. And one of my boys watched Spin City recently because we had DVDs around the house. He's like, was this ever on TV? I'm like, yeah. I mean, what'd you think? It was like just for my friends in my garage? Dude, yeah, it's on television.
That is so funny because I have to say I have laughed with you for a long time, but it wasn't until I started doing this that I started looking up who was behind the shows. So I've watched you growing up. I watched Scrubs. I've watched Cougar Town. I loved Whiskey Cavalier. And I was really disappointed that it didn't go on because I liked the interplay. I liked thinking somebody was good turned out to be bad. To go from that to Ted Lasso with your team, did you bring some of your previous writing people with you to write on this show, or did you, or was it more of a Jason Sudeikis SNL comedy type writing room?
You know what is neat is you first of all, thank you. You said some very nice things, Cherry, and I appreciate it. I'm not great at accepting compliments, but my wife tells me I have to look people in the eye. I'd be looking in the eye if we were here, and it really means a lot to me that you watch that stuff. That anybody gives any time to any of this. Look, I'm also, when you say I've been doing it a long time, part of the fun is when young men and women work with you or for you on a show and they're talented, I get to keep working with them and kind of, you know, bringing them from show to show. And then people say nice things to me about their work, you know what I mean? Which is super fun. So this show is a cool mix because not a lot of people know about Jason Sudeikis. He started as a writer on SNL, and he is without a doubt, you know, the head writer of the show. So in a fun way, I got to meet new people because he brought kind of his two buddies that he created this whole concept with. And then I got to work with a couple friends that have worked with me and for me before. And we kind of made a big family. And to that family, we had to add a couple of British writers that not only know football and culturally how crazy they are over there for their, British for the soccer football teams, but also, we needed people to let us know how culturally British folks speak, what they would make fun of, and how they sound. So it was a big kind of melting pot writers' room. It was really, really fun. Mix of everything.
That sounds like a lot of fun. And congratulations on getting the season 2 renewal. Did you all know that you were getting the season 2 renewal while you were still writing season 1? So you felt comfortable having a real, I don't know if you're having a cliffhanger or if you're just having a regular season finale.
I'll tell you what we did is when we pitched this, when we pitched this out to Apple, we pitched it as a 3-season show, and we pitched it like an old time sports movie. We pitched the beginning, the middle, and the end, first, second, third year. So we knew what we were doing, and then we were crossing our fingers that we got to do another year. But they're picking us. They as soon as the show kind of came on, they picked us up for the second and third year, so we get to finish now. And it's fun. We started writing it a few months ago, and they start shooting it right in the new year in London.
That must give you such freedom to be able to follow the characters, because I've been watching from the very first one, and Rebecca wasn't nice, but when you understand why she wasn't nice and her frustration as we grow on and we get to know her husband, I love your character for that. I don't know how many women are in your writing room, but she feels so real to me. The frustration of working with men, the betrayal of someone that she thought was a work friend, the betrayal from her husband, the fact that she dropped her friends, which some people do. I mean, she is such a well-rounded female character, not like a traditional female character.
Cherry, you're so nice to give me the opportunity to shout out. There's massively talented female writers on this show. Not only do they get the credit for all this stuff, but they would have killed us if we had done something differently, And so, look, the pitch of this show, and you kind of nailed it, was whether you're a sports fan or not, everybody's seen sports movies. I'm sure you saw Rocky or Field of Dreams or Bull Durham or some of those, right? And they have certain tropes. And, one of the things that Jason said when we were first writing this, we said, hey, we're going to do the tropes of like having the mean villainous female boss. But then instead of in a movie, they just leave it like that, and she's the bad guy. And we said, for our show, we're going to show how she got there, how she was mistreated, what it's like for a woman in a male world, still male dominated world of sports. And then the other thing, some of the female kind of writers and producers really drove home for us was developing a female friendship. Because I would say it's not the thing I've written on my whole life. And watching, two women as they became friends in real life, Hannah Waddingham, who plays Rebecca, and Juno Temple, who plays Keely, become friends on the show, and kind of watch that relationship develop in a real, not fake way was one of my favorite parts of the show, and I can't take any credit for it, but I want to take all the credit for it.
Well, you have to. It's your show, Bill. And shame. I didn't even recognize her at first from Game of Thrones. Changed from I've seen her in other things because I like British TV. And I was surprised. She looks so different without like a head scarf.
I know,
on.
right?
It's just, and the relation. I love the fact that Ted Lasso has true friendships, but they're different friendships. And that you all have written characters that have grown from the very first episode to what I assume to be the season finale. One of the people that I really like is the young man who plays the third coach.
Oh, Nick Mohammed, he plays Nate.
I love Nate, how he was like the bullied, everyone disrespected him, and how Ted is one of those people who everyone wants as a boss, who's going to nurture and help you grow and be a great employee. Did you all, when you cast him, because I know he's a comic and I've seen him in other things, did you all realize he'd be able to really walk that razor edge of drama and humor all in one? Because I really like how he portrays it.
Oh, we walked out with Nick Mohammed, and it was so interesting because he's very good at playing the insecure, kind of soft-spoken guy. And so much so that he had done that before. And when we first tried to say, hey, will you do this show? He's like, oh, I've done that character before. And we've seen, that kind of characters well, especially, you know, with you know, the young diverse guy who's afraid to speak up and quiet. And I said, yeah, that's the trope. But what's fun on our show is you're going to start there, and by the, you know, I won't tell you, but by the, oh, you see, you know, but by the end, in the following years, you're going to find your voice, and you will not be that character even at the end of the first season, much less the second and third. And once he knew that we were trying to do a show about character growth, he was way into it, and he took control of himself. He's also a writer. He created with David Schwimmer that show Intelligence, is on the Peacock and stars in it. And he's really made the character his own. It's a cool story because it could be a cliche if that just stayed the soft-spoken, nervous to stand up for himself guy, you know? I think he's so good.
Now you're writing a show that has so many characters, and you are giving even the smaller football player roles their own backstory. I loved when they took the what is it, the room where they get exercise.
Oh yeah, the training. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, and they did the, not voodoo, but they all burned something. And when you all had Rebecca come in, I was like, this is the beginning of the true change, where she realizes they're her team now and not her ex-husband's. And I really liked that scene, and how everybody got a moment. We got to know all of them. How are you keeping track of all of their stories? Like, do you have a big board where you have a picture of the character and you've written sort of an overview of what you want as you plot out season 2 and plot out season 3?
We talk about arcs for all the characters. So even that episode that you mentioned is very astute. It's very important to us that the young man Tahib that plays Sam, the Nigerian player, he's the one that goes into Rebecca's office, you know, to talk to her and say, you have to come down to this team event. And the reason he does it is because we were so hopeful to get to do a second and third year, that we have plans, you know, for Sam and Rebecca, as far as, you know, how those guys get to know each other and stuff. So yes, we've talked about the arcs for all of the players, Danny Rojas, you know, and all the coaches, and Nate and Beard and stuff. And so the biggest worry, you already nailed it, was we knew we wouldn't be able to play those all out in 1 year. So we were always worried that, you know, if we had to end after 1 year, no one would know where those things would all go. But yes, we do. We have a Bible for the show.
And one of the other things is, I know when you start writing a show, you may not have people cast. So once you started getting the casting of the actors, did you tweak the characters a little bit to play to their strengths?
Yeah, look, Jason was great about this too. Look, the best thing we had was when the guy that you're writing the pilot with, you know, and one of the other creators of the show is also the star, you know, you can write a line and then he'll, you know, instead of going, wonder if this will work, he'll read it out loud, and then, you know, right away, you know, and he'll do it in character. So that was a huge, huge cheat. But he, like me, believes in actors and actresses gaining ownership of their characters. So once they got the parts, we changed them all to suit them. So much so, Cristo Fernandez, who plays Danny Rojas, he's from Guadalajara. He's lovely. He came in and auditioned for that Jamie Tart part at the beginning, but when we were watching his audition, he was so joyful and so full of that life that we invented his character based on who he was for real, and then brought him back, you know?
Oh, wow. That is awesome. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about the nitty gritty of the show. Did you do a cliffhanger? Because I have to say, as much as I grew up watching, I think the show was called not Dynasty, but the one Dallas.
Dallas, sure.
Shooting JR, I personally have always felt has changed TV, and not for the better, because everything has a cliffhanger now. And I'm like, if I plan on watching your show, I'm going to watch your show whether you have a cliffhanger or not. Yeah. And I feel cliffhangers almost disrupt the season, because they're trying to do something on the very last episode. What did you think about that as far as doing Ted Lasso? Because that's not a show that I personally would think would have a cliffhanger, but I almost think a lot of networks ask you all to put cliffhangers in.
It's not a cliffhanger. It is the end of this chapter and a very clear setting out what the next chapter is. And, you know, we try very hard to be unexpected. So I think there'll be a couple surprises for people. I've written cliffhangers before. I think that the one world that they still live in is in romance, which we're not doing a lot of right now. So to me, you can do will two characters finally kiss, or will somebody say yes to a marriage proposal or something like that as a cliffhanger? It still works, especially on network TV, but that's not what we were looking to do on this. And Apple was super supportive in letting us kind of tell stories the way we wanted to.
Now you've been, I think, had a show on almost all the major networks. What is the difference between being on a traditional network and going to Apple TV? Because watching Apple TV versus when they launched some of the newer networks, Apple TV just has a larger bank of money, because watching Ted Lasso, the show just looks really good. And it looks like they put the money in to make sure that you had everything that you needed to create a structure of a great show.
Oh, look, without a doubt, budgetarily, it feels like you're making little movies, which is great. But the biggest thing is, as somebody that worked in a prison, not a prison, I love network TV and I loved the rules. But over the years, as more and more commercials came in, you were trying to tell 3 stories in, I think now a network sitcom is like 21 minutes or 20 minutes and 40 seconds. And it's really hard to do character development, in that small amount of time. And so on this show, the biggest thing for me was like when we turn in the show and they'd say, how long is it? And I'd say, oh, this one's 29 minutes or this one's 32 minutes. And they'd be like, okay. I'm like, okay. Oh, cool. So that it's so freeing in storytelling and getting to do the character development that people like yourself hopefully respond to. That's the biggest difference.
Now, can you tell me a little bit about what's going to be happening on the season finale without giving away too much? I have a suspicion that Ted Lasso's wife has a new husband or new boyfriend, and that's why she really pushed the divorce. But I'll wait until tomorrow to see if my
I can't get I can't do any spoilers. Look, I think that the way that we view this really kind of as a movie in 3 parts, I think it was just important for us to do a show that it's not like this season's over and then you start next year out and go, oh, I wonder what's going to happen this year. You're going to leave this year knowing that there's some big changes and knowing where things are going. I might steal your idea. I'll tell you that. I'll say is that you can look at the cast list and know, because his ex-wife isn't in the finale. That's a good idea. And she's a wonderful actress too. She's very, very good. But I will tell you the coolest thing to look for in our show, and it's a tip of the hat to Jason and to the rest of the writers too, is there's not one small thing that you might think like, oh, it's how you're thinking right now. If you see something and it raises a flag and you go, why is that? We're going to answer eventually. You know what I mean? And one of the cool things about streaming, to bring it all around, is we're going to answer, maybe not in the finale, maybe not next, but definitely by the end of the show. But we give some answers now.
Now, one of the things that I really enjoy about Ted Lasso is everybody isn't in black and white. Ted Lasso is what I'd call a nice person like me, as in he chooses to be nice and chooses to be kind. And then some of the other characters like Roy, from first glance, he seems like he's kind of a mean guy. And then you realize when you peel apart the layers and he feels more comfortable and he reveals himself, he's just gruff on the outside. He's like a fruit with like spikes, and then you peel it and it's like a sweet.
Yeah, it's like a prickly pear or a Rottweiler, one of those things. He's got a chewy center.
A very chewy center. And so what's been one of your favorite episodes from this first season of Ted Lasso?
You know what episode I really liked is, I'll tell you why. It's I liked the 3rd episode a lot. It stuck with me. I didn't write it. We all help write and everything, but I thought it was so good. And that's the one that Trent Cram, the reporter, is doing a piece on Ted. And he says at the end, and even though I think he's going to fail, I can't help but root for him, And it's because it's what this whole show is about for me, Cherry, is when Jason and I first talked about writing a show that was hopefully optimistic and hopeful, we talked a lot about, and with Brendan Hunt and Joe Kelly, the other 2 creators, we talked a lot about how if it's such a cynical, dark world right now, and I can tell you're very kind just by your countenance and the way that you conduct yourself. But I would tell you that most of the time right now, if you meet somebody that is as open, kind, and optimistic as Ted, in this cynical world, you go, there's no way that's real. And there's no way that's sincere. And 2 weeks from now, he's going to pull off the mask and be a jerk like everybody else. Right.
Yeah.
And we said, we're going to do a show that we look at how people feel when they realize a couple weeks later that he's not a jerk. And he is that optimistic. And he is like that teacher that we all had and remember, or the coach we all had, or the relative we all had that set us on the right path. And so I love that episode because that reporter says what I think people would say is like, you really believe the stuff you're saying, don't you? He says, yeah, I do. And even that hardened, jerky reporter who we took the time to make him just a horrible, mean guy, in the pilot. And at the end says he can't help but root for this dude. And it's with great intent. That's another character that I guarantee you will see him again as the years go on, and has his own journey as well. So that one spoke a lot to me because I hoped that people would get to the same point that reporter got to by episode 3, which was I can't help but root for him.
I love that episode. And one of the hints for me about what Ted was like was that he came to the restaurant because that was his cab driver or
as the driver and the pilot. We didn't even know if people would remember that guy because that's what we try to do. He was the young guy that drove Ted to from the airport to his place in the pilot. You know what I mean? And we were hoping people saw that Easter egg a little bit.
And it was so fun when he was eating the food and it was too spicy, but he was like, you have to keep eating. I want to be polite. And I'm from Iowa originally. And when I first moved to DC and I had like real ethnic food, it was a major shocker because I thought I could eat spicy food. And then I was like, no, I can't. When I moved to LA, one of my neighbors told me he thought I was fake. And I was like, why do you think I was fake? And I remember he said to me, because you just were so nice all the time. And I'm like, well, why wouldn't I be nice? He's like, well, because who's really nice like that? And I said, most people.
Nice people.
Nice. It's what I
who does it is not Cherry. Nice people do it.
Nice people
we need more right now. We need some optimistic, hopeful, nice folks,
I'm enjoying the show because it kind of reminds me of when I was a kid and I used to watch old TV shows from the Depression. And I noticed that so many of the shows from that time were like musicals or like just happy comedies. And I like watching, I'm like a Disney princess. I usually watch PG type shows. Yeah. And I was looking for something that was uplifting and would make me sort of smile and be happy. And Ted Lasso doesn't have the
cynicism?
Yes. That I
tough
see
word.
A lot of
that's one of those words that's tough for me. It doesn't, right? And by the way, hey,
really
Cherry, I'm a comedy writer. I love some of those cynical, I could quote lines from Veep all day. It's the darkest, edgiest comedy about politics in the world. But you're hitting on something because we really wanted to try to look. When we wrote this show, we weren't in a pandemic or anything like that, the original show, but we had already reached the time that discourse on social media, and the way people were treating each other is pretty bad, and man, it was a pleasure. Even I don't want to get too crunchy, but even healing for us writers to be writing about a character that is inherently kind and hopeful, and he doesn't force other people to be the same, but by being around him, they kind of look into themselves and decide, hey, maybe I can open my heart a little bit, and figure out a different path. And it's been a pleasure to work on because of that. It's like it would be hard right now where we are, for me anyways, to go in and be writing with a group of people, a pessimistic, edgy show in which everybody's mean to each other. Because I'd be like, I get enough of that on the news, or in debates.
That's all we're getting right now. And it's sort of like, it's hard for people who are unpleasant to deal with someone who is as nice as Ted, because they keep being mean to, like, I have people be mean to me and
Sure.
They think that I don't know they're being mean to me, but I do. I just choose to not react that way. And it's sort of like I'm a rock and they're a wave, because eventually they either A, will become nice to me, or B, they just stop talking to me, which I'm fine. Yeah. Either way.
Well, it takes their power away. You know what I mean? I think is if you match nastiness and meanness with kindness and politeness, it makes the other people know that they aren't really affecting you. You know what I mean? And so for me, I feel like it's a weapon in itself. And that's why I try to get more people to embrace it a little bit, especially my kids.
Nice woman. Da, 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 da.
That's your superpower, Cherry. I'm telling you right now, I already know it.
You're so funny. And I know that you're busy, and I have one last question.
Sure.
How are you handling the writing room since people are sheltering in place? Are you using like Zoom, or are you?
I'm doing Zoom all day, Cherry. I'm here in Florida, which is not where I live, because I'm visiting my parents, and I'm still working every day. And we got people coming in from New York and London and LA, and I'm in Florida. And it's weird because I miss the community experience of it all. But we luckily all know each other well, love each other and stuff. So we're getting work done. But I look forward to the day that we all get to sit in the same room and write again.
So you guys were all writing in the same room, even the writers from England had come.
We brought the first year we brought the British folks over and the people from New York out. We were all in one room in LA, and now we're just kind of spread around the country.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool. One day I want to be in a writer's room itself, and I am looking forward to season 2 of Ted Lasso, and more importantly, watching the season finale tomorrow and rewatching the show when I'm feeling down, because it is sort of like a hug to my ears when I watch it, because it is so reflective of my own life, where I have friends from different backgrounds, from different places, and I enjoy the lilt of hearing someone else's viewpoint and someone else's accent, because I feel like the world would be happier if we were more like a big salad that's all mixed together, or a patchwork quilt, as opposed to the sameness. Watching your show, I can tell that people are not all from SNL. They didn't all go to the same school. They aren't all from New York or LA. They're from other places. And it just adds a texture to it that I really enjoy.
Cherry, I got to say thank you, not only for the nice stuff you said, but for you to have noticed the things that we truly care about. And, we wanted people to feel that way. And I'll make sure that the whole gang and the whole team out there that, watches or listens to this when you put it up and stuff, because it's cool when people get the show in the way that you wanted them to get the show. So I'm very grateful, and all of us are. I'll tell you too, not only me, you'll find so funny, social media, they're all on there because they love this kind of give and take aspect of the show. So if Jason Sudeikis is liking your tweets, it's really Jason Sudeikis. And if Brett Goldstein, the guy that plays Roy, is out there talking, it's really him. And so we're out there if anybody wants us to reach us and talk about it, especially after they see the finale.
I can't wait. And are you guys going to do a live tweet so that we can live tweet with you all at the same time?
We haven't done anything like that yet, but I will tell you, almost every cast member is available on there, and as long as you know the time difference to London, you know what I mean? Because a lot of them are there still. It's easy to find folks, man, because we're just having such a good time talking about the show. It's been embraced in a way that we didn't expect it, so we're kind of all enjoying it.
Well, I can't wait to watch the episode tomorrow. And I can't wait for season 2 when it comes back on Apple TV sometime in 2021, I suppose.
You got it. And sure, we'll talk again then or beforehand if you want to. I can talk about anything TV. I'm a TV nerd, and you seem like you're one too.
I am. And I will talk to you again, because I definitely want to talk about some of your past shows. And as I like to say, what you will be doing during the summer when you're done writing season 2 of Ted Lasso.
I'm ready. Hey, Cherry, it was really nice meeting you. Have a great night, okay?
Thank you. You as well. Bye.
Cool. Yeah, that was awesome.